Hello, wonderful people of the internet, and welcome to the follow-up of Should You Buy a Steam Deck? Now, there are some things in that video that I didn't actually talk about. I completely forgot when I was making that video, and I figured I'd make this follow-up video to bring that up, kind of cover those bases, and talk about some stuff that I wasn't actually aware of going into making that video. So without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? You know how with the Joy-Cons, they had their drift, and you'd have to send them in, and you couldn't really play your Switch for a time. I mean, you could get a spare set of Joy-Cons, and, you know, that would set you back like 80 bucks. And don't even get me started about if that happened to the Nintendo Switch Lite, you know, that doesn't have detachable Joy-Cons. Of course, when it comes to Joy-Con drift and the Steam Deck, I guess you technically have two different thumb pads. You have the ones that can act sort of like a mouse, and the others that are actual joysticks. So I guess it just depends on what game you're gonna play and how much you're gonna need those particular Joy-Cons or mouse pads or whatever. Well, in an interview with IGN, Gabe Newell addressed the situation and is trying to mitigate any potential drift that the Steam Deck is gonna have. But, you know, in this day and age, controllers just despite the fact that they seem more advanced than older controllers that don't have drift even 10 years after being made. I have a GameCube controller, for example, that I still use for playing emulators on my PC or even for playing some Switch games. So we can only hope that Gabe is gonna make sure that the Steam Decks aren't gonna drift. I know that's gonna be an impossibility for everyone, but the idea is that they're gonna try really hard to mitigate this. Speaking of IGN, apparently during their time with the Steam Deck, they had all their games loaded on the SD card. That was mentioned to me in the comments when I made that other video that apparently it's not going to be as big of a thing. Personally, I still feel like my point stands with the SD card, the M.2, and even the MMC drive are probably going to be overall better options for storage on the Steam Deck if possible. Maybe there's going to be some optimizations to allow SD card storage to run slightly faster, but overall, it's going to come down to the speeds of that SD card. Doesn't matter what kind of optimization they do. Moving on to other storage options that I didn't cover in the previous video. External drives. And yeah, I guess you could technically do external drives. There is a port on the Steam Deck itself that could possibly be used to connect an external hard drive or external SSD to it, but then you can end up with a clunky mess. Even if you're dealing with a low-profile thumb drive that doesn't have any cables attached to it, you're still eventually going to have to take that thumb drive out to charge it, and if you're suspending a game, you're just going to have to straight up turn it off versus the convenience of suspending it. Then if you have a larger or even an external drive with a cable connect to it, you're going to have that thing dangling around, and if the cable at some point does get loose and starts to disconnect from the deck, especially if you're playing a game, that's going to cause some problems and maybe corrupt some data. Not to mention that if you're traveling a lot with it, you leave it alone for a minute, maybe to go to the bathroom or whatever, someone comes along, just pulls it out and runs off with your drive with all the data on it. But of course, this all depends on whether or not you can actually just natively plug a external drive into the deck itself, or if you have to get the dock first and then connect it through that. Then you're acting with more of a desktop situation, and I can imagine at that point you're probably using it for more productivity reasons than you are just gaming. And I believe that is everything that I missed from the previous video. If there is something else that I happen to miss between this and the previous video, please put in the comments below. I may make another video on this if there's enough to warrant it, but otherwise, thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and turn on that doorbell icon so you get notified when I upload next time. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day. Signing off. I don't know how to end this.